Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co hosts, Michael Hall
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
and Michael Reed.
You threw me off this time again, Kyle, because the last time you switched it up and I thought you were going to go to me next and I got all confused. But how's everybody doing?
Doing fantastic, and we're joined again by Lake Lewis, owner of the Sports Journey and Washington football team insider. Lake,
What's going on, fellas? How you doing?
doing fantastic.
Always good, always good.
Doing a lot better, unfortunately, than Derrius Guice, who the recent reports came out on Friday that the Washington football team ended up releasing him after getting notified of the reports of his domestic dispute, possibly strangulation of his girlfriend at the time. Lake, what is your immediate reaction?
I mean, this is just another, dark cloud that hangs over the organization. And, regardless of the circumstances, obviously you want anyone to have fair, process and due process in a legal matter. But you can't have that kind of negativity, especially not with everything that's come out over the past month and a half about the organization. They had no choice but to let Derrius Guice go. And, from what I've been, told, that they spoke with him and it wasn't one incident, unfortunately, I guess it was a couple of incidents and one too many, if true, obviously I don't know if they were true or not, but you just can't bring that kind of negative pub to an organization that doesn't need any more.
Yeah, and the consensus was like this was three separate incidents that had happened. And my whole thing is like that I'm thinking to myself, Ron has been teaching about family, kind of having, and the one word he keeps saying is trust. And the Wash football team said they weren't notified until Thursday by Derrius Guice. Do you think that trust of him not telling them and being honest about what was happening had something to do with it?
I mean, that clearly has to be in play. I mean, I don't see how it can't be in play. Ron Rivera has said that being accountable and they want to be as transparent as possible as far as this new culture change. You can't have something like that, not seep through the cracks somehow. I mean, it's something of that magnitude for no one to know. Yeah, again, that's kind of iffy on my part to think that no one knew anything if those
Right.
things were true. But the fact that it did come out, the fact that you have pictures of him turning himself in, and the fact that he turned himself in
Right.
means that whether he did it or not, it still was something that was going to be in play. That they could not go into this season already dealing with COVID, already dealing with the name change, sexual misconduct allegations. You can't have any more on your plate, especially not with one of your players that you really looked at as being a linchpin for you as far as going forward and being a face perhaps for you. You can't have that.
Yeah, and given that we heard news that Ron Rivera had taken Derrius Guice off of his draft board the day of the draft or before that. And so you have to imagine that, not that Ron Rivera was looking for an excuse, but it's not like he's wanting to keep you around. You know what I mean?
Short leash.
Right.
No loyalty. Right.
And this kind of seemed like, this was a thing where it was like, I told you so kind of thing. For Ron
Yeah.
Rivera, it was like this, he knew this type of thing would come about.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to look at it too. Like one of the position groups that we've been touting all off season that has potential to be good is the running back room. And this was with Derrius obviously being figured to being part of it. But obviously you have a first ballot Hall of Famer in Adrian Peterson there. Peyton Barber has proved that he can run in the NFL. J.D. McKissick has proven that he can do multiple things out the backfield. You draft a kid, Antonio Gibson, out of Memphis, who's versatile on top of that. And then the wild card and all that could be Bryce Love, who was a Heisman Trophy runner-up, in 2017 at Stanford. Had a lot of people forgetting about Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. And we all know how great Christian McCaffrey is now. So, this room wasn't lacking. So, I hate to say this, but if it's true or not, it's something that unfortunately Derrius put himself in that position. And this is the ramifications of it.
Yeah. Now, Lake, do you think that they maybe had a hunch that something was going on with Darius? Maybe they just didn't know the severity of it because they did draft Antonio Gibson. They did bring in Peyton Barber. Do you think that maybe they were preparing for something like this? Maybe, I don't know, they knew something was going down.
Well, I can't really answer that. I would liken to think that they drafted, Gibson and brought in, McKissick and Barber, and just from the standpoint that Derrius unfortunately has proven that he hadn't been able to
Right.
stay healthy in a season.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it was more so not these allegations, and I can't answer to that yes or no, but I would think it was more so the fact
Sure.
that he could never stay on the field, during his first 2 seasons in the league.
Right.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate. But like before we move on to the next subject, I have to ask you because I've seen this question all over from the fan base, and hopefully you can kind of answer it for them. What is the difference between the Derrius Guice situation and the Cody Latimer situation?
Well, I mean, I think you might be looking at, again, I'm not a doctor, but I think you're looking at some maybe mental situation
Right.
with Cody Latimer, and that's something that needs to be assessed. The league is involved in that as well. So I think they're looking at that maybe from an instability standpoint, mental standpoint, and then you have other factors that are going to weigh into how you treat that, as opposed to something where I guess someone was in their right mind, so to speak, and did what they did. So, again, different situation. And I also think too that, let's face it, there's some collateral damage in this. You're talking about a well-known player. I know Derrius hadn't done much on the field yet, but there were high expectations and even higher expectations for him to have a really good breakout year this season. So you're talking about maybe making an example out of someone at the same time that wakes up other players to say, hey, if you're going to play for the Washington football team, I mean what I say now as far as this culture change. If that doesn't wake people up, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Right. Also, the timing after the Washington Post article, it's almost like their hands were tied. They had to do something about that.
They had to. I mean, you can't, again, you can't face the firing squad any more than they already have. I mean, and I know from my job, you just want to be able to cover X's and O's and not have to deal with all this drama and nonsense. Right. And it just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. So, they're never going to make anyone happy. I know there were a lot of fans that felt like they should have given the kid, fair process in this whole thing, but they feel like they did do their fair process and their, just due, and they let him go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. Now, Lake, let's move on to better news, happier news. Reuben Foster was activated off the PUP list, so he can now practice for the Washington football team. So let me ask you, Lake, where do you see Reuben Foster filling in this defense, and do you see him being a vital point for this team?
I think the team sees that. I think Reuben sees that, and I think us in the media see it, and fans see it as well, because you're not going to activate him if you don't want to get him on the field. Simple as that. You're not going to have him back out of practice. That injury happened a little bit more than a year ago, and it happened in OTAs. Matter of fact, it was the very first OTA, and I was standing right there when it happened. It was unfortunate, but he's had a full year to recover, a little bit more of an extended period, because they didn't have OTAs this year, so to speak. That's what's going on right now as we speak. It's pretty much makeup of OTAs. So I think that they expect for him to have an impact. I expect for him, for them to think he's going to compete with John Bostic, with Cole, Holcomb. I mean, I think they feel like Sean Dion Hamilton. They've got a nice plethora of young players in the middle now that can maybe accent the guys that are going to be on the outside, and that front four, front five that's going to be in front of them too.
Yeah, and I have another question really quick regarding the PUP list, because there's another prominent player on that list that's actually on it still, and that's Alex Smith. And
Right.
If you think he's cleared to play and cleared for contact, and he is actually in the rotation with the quarterback mix, do you see him fitting in here, and do you see them maybe carrying 3 quarterbacks if possible?
I mean, if Alex Smith can play, he's going to fit in. I mean, he's a leader. He's one of the best leaders I've ever been around, ever seen, in that uniform. And, let's face it, since that injury, the franchise has done nothing but go down, down, down. And, before he was injured, remember, they were one of the surprise teams in the league at that point.
6-3.
I think they were 6-3 going into that game. And it derailed some positive momentum. Everything happens for a reason. Right. I think a lot of people need to realize if Alex never got hurt, perhaps a lot of these wholesale changes we've seen would not have happened. So you don't want to say somebody getting hurt was a good thing, because that's never the case. But it opened up Pandora's box for this team that people needed to look at. But with that said, yeah, if he's healthy, he's going to compete. It's tough for me to just see that, because I was there and I witnessed that, and just like everyone else did, that was a gruesome injury that almost cost a man not just his leg but his life. And for him to come back, he's got a family. I'm a father. You want to make sure somebody's quality of life is still there for their family, but he's a competitor, man. And if he feels like he can get out there and compete with Dwayne and Kyle Allen, don't tell him, of all people, he can't do it. I think, if anything, it makes the quarterback room even stronger now, because the young guys know there's no room for error for them going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Lake, so Snyder, the owner of the Washington football team, has issued a lawsuit against, I think, a Native American media company. I'm not really sure. Can you kind of give an idea and a look into what entails with that lawsuit and what fans can expect out of it?
That's a tough one, man. That's some legal jargon. I might not be the best to answer, and I'm not trying to duck your question, but I mean, clearly he feels like he wasn't trying to disparage Native Americans, and I've said this all along. Yes, the name needed to be changed. I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but it was offensive to some, not all, but it was offensive to some, and that's all you need to be offensive, But on top of that, I can say with a straight face, not having sat down at Dan Snyder's table or anything like that, but I know for a fact he didn't feel like Washington was doing anything to disparage Native Americans. This wasn't, George Preston Marshall's, quote unquote Redskins back then. Right. That was disparaging, and it really was. I mean, they had white people out doing, dressed in Indian garb and face. That's disrespectful. Right. But not in today's team. That's not the situation. I said this before. Head of security for FedEx Field and for the team is Native American. Robert's one of the nicest guys you ever meet. He brings his family out there. They do Indian ritual on the field during some of the games. That's the head of security's family. From literally from their reservation, if you want to say, out in South Dakota. So no, the Redskins at that time, when they were the Redskins, they weren't trying to be disparaging, but nevertheless, that's probably what this is about. It's just Snyder has the prerogative to say, listen, I wasn't trying to do anything harmful, and now people are doing harmful things to him. So it's probably a countersuit or whatever. You just never know. Again, not trying to duck your question, but only he knows in his mind why he's suing someone. But obviously, he feels like he was done wrong in some way.
Right, and look, obviously that's a really hard question to answer. It's a bad one to ask, but we as a fan base, we don't really have any info on that. Just trying to get some sort of look into it, because in this circumstance, with what was being said about Snyder, it was as much as I have to say about him and the way he's been an owner, he didn't deserve that. I felt he deserved more respect than that. Now, Lake, you have been involved with some of the press conferences the Washington football team has held over the past couple weeks to start training camp. So let me ask you, what are some of the biggest takeaways from those press conferences, and what was your favorite?
That's a great question, Kyle. I mean, I can say the one thing that I noticed with all the players during these Zoom conferences, even the coaches, is a lot of references of we and us and our team. It hasn't been about guys coming on saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Right. Everyone's talking in more of a collective unit. And that's the one thing that Ron Rivera said from day one, that, he wants the Washington football team to be more cohesive and be about unity. And when you see guys talking, I don't see any arrogance. I just see like a calm confidence of, they know that they've turned the corner as far as the clubhouse is, so to speak. Let's just call it like it is. Right. There's no more egos or divas or anything like that. I mean, yeah, you have a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins that has a little bit of swag, a little bit of confidence. Some people call that arrogance, but I'll say this. You name one quarterback in the NFL that's not successful that has both confidence and arrogance, I'm going to show you a backup. So he needs that in order to play that position and be a leader. Obviously needs to be humble at the same time. And I think he's has that this offseason. But, my favorite moment, I mean, I like when Sam Mills III came in and was talking about his defensive line and just the fact that, Matt Ioannidis said that they're the tip of the spear. That's what this line is. And if you know what the tip of the spear is, it's the sharpest point that's supposed to inflict damage. And they know where their bread and butter is going to start. It wasn't the same old jargon and lingo we've heard in years past. This was different. And it just seems like he knows what he has. You saw what he did in Carolina, with their defensive fronts. There's more talent on this defensive front. I mean, obviously you had Julius Peppers, Hall of Famer, and you had some other guys that were really good. But 1 through 5, 1 through 6, 1 through 7, the guys that are going to be on that line rotating, I mean, maybe the 49ers, and that might be it.
Yeah. Right.
That maybe outclasses them right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And one thing from Ron Rivera's press conferences that I've gotten is the confidence oozing out of him with this young team and how good he feels with this team. It's amazing to see. We're so used to having coaches walk in here. The first thing they do is say, all right, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. Just trying to pluck out everybody and replace them with free agent, big money guys, where Ron Rivera walked in here and he said, you know what? I like it here. This is really good. This is great looking.
Well, he had a chance, when we were in Charlotte last year, I was at that game, and to me, that was the team's most impressive win of the season. Yeah. I mean, but it was more of a glimpse in the future. You saw Haskins out there making plays. The rushing attack was there. Obviously, Derrius Guices was a big part of that with Adrian Peterson that day. But you saw what could be done. McLaurin had a big game. And then, of course, defensively, they got after it. And ironically, it was against Kyle Allen, who's now on this roster. So that game got Ron Rivera fired. No matter how you cut it, that was his last game. Yeah. And I think he had a chance to see up close and personal. You know what? This team's just missing some leadership, and they're missing, a coach that can come in there and change some things. And if I can get the owner to stay away from me and let me do my thing, this might be a good look. And let's face it, everyone talks about this is a young team that's hungry and guys have a chance to redeem themselves. Alex Smith, come back from injury. Ron Rivera might be the biggest redemption story here. He has a chance to redeem himself from going from a 2-time coach of the year with the Panthers, taking the team to 15-1 to a Super Bowl, created an MVP and Cam Newton, to people forgot that he could coach. So now he has a chance to prove it all over again with a team that if they get some success early in his tenure, they're only going to go up because they're so young and talented.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about so many times in this pod, I felt like Ron Rivera, he was more valuable of an added piece this offseason than Chase Young was. And I know that's, to a lot of people, that's insane to say, but what this Washington football team has missed since the early 90s was that kind of confidence, that hard-nosed mentality that Ron Rivera brings. And I just feel like it's going to produce so much for this team. They've needed that leadership, that mindset to be brought with them. And we just can't thank Ron Rivera enough for taking the job. Now, I have 2 more questions for you, Lake, before we let you go. The one being Julie Donaldson, D'Angelo Hall, and Brem Weinstein have just been announced to be calling the games for the Washington football team this year. We don't know that much about Brem, so what was your immediate reaction?
I'm waiting to see how it turns out. I mean, I'm a big fan of Julie. She's a friend, and I'm proud of her and her accomplishments and what she's doing. For me, as a broadcaster first, that's my background, calling play-by-play at Penn State. It was a surprise, because this is a radio crew. This isn't a TV crew. This is a radio crew where you have to tell stories and be able to set the scene for the listening audience. And, remains to be seen. Obviously, she feels good about the hire, and we'll see how it plays out. But Bram's been around the market for a long time. He's been on local radio. He's had his show, Bram Weinstein's show, at the same time. And I think he had a brief stint with ESPN as well. So, she feels confident in what she's doing. Obviously, we don't have to say much about D'Angelo as a former player. And he was, recently has been doing, work with NFL Network. So this is her call, this is her move, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I can say, I was surprised. I put my name in the hat as well. I'll say that too.
So did I.
But okay.
But I love that.
I'm kidding.
But there's a lot of heavyweights that are out here, and I'm not saying I'm one. I'm just saying like
you are
the Steve Buckhand, the world. I know Gus Johnson, who's with Fox, is a Howard grad. Chris Cooley, Grant Paulson, So it's a different move, but I'm not going to throw shade or anything. We just have to see how it plays out. But I'm going to support her moves though and see how they work out.
Yeah, and it was surprising to me, not because of the talent or of anybody there. They were all well deserved of that job. The one being D Hall with his recent comments, kind of being negative towards the team. It kind of was weird that, you get gifted after you torment the team. I thought he was kicking the team while they were down and then got gifted another job. Like, that was the weird part for me.
Yeah, I mean that's something, and I can say this, and it's not to stir the pot or anything, but I can say this as an African American journalist in this town. This town hasn't been the best, and I'm just gonna come out and say that because it's almost like you have to have worn that uniform. If you're black in order to get those shots, and that's something that I'm hoping changes. It's got to change, and hence that's why I started my own thing and left ESPN. I was on CBS Sports Radio as well. Right. I left to start my own thing because after a while, you don't have any expectations, and you have to create your own expectations, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that, and I understand what you mean. Yeah, getting the opportunities obviously doesn't come. They're few and far between. Let me just say that. Now, to finish this off, the last time that we asked you this question, who would you pick out of the players on this team to progress the most under Ron Rivera? And last time it was Derrius Guices. So we'll bring this back around. Let's get your new prediction for the season. Who do you think was going to take the biggest stride under this coaching staff?
Before we came on, you kind of mentioned it, and my immediate reaction was Bryce Love. I mean, I'm high on the kid. I think he's going to do really well. I think, unfortunately with Derrius, it opened up a door for Bryce, for all the backs actually, but for Bryce specifically, if he can be anything close to what he was at Stanford, they've got themselves a home run threat, literally. Yeah, and he was that talented. Another guy that, as we speak, it came to mind, Reuben Foster. I mean, he benefits big time, not just from Ron Rivera's coaching, but from Ron Rivera's, leadership and no nonsense approach. Right. Because Reuben probably will feel more like he's at Alabama than anywhere else. Right. And we saw how he was at Alabama. He was a wrecking ball. Yeah. So, all these young men are going to benefit from Ron Rivera. I mean, if anything, they could go 0-16. Well, first of all, I don't think we're going to have 16 games this year. But if we are fortunate enough to have that, great. But if they went 0-16, I guarantee you they're still going to be professional off the field. And that's something that's been lacking for a long time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Lake. And I really appreciate you again taking the time out to come join us on this little old pod. I know you're a busy man, obviously, and we really appreciate and value your opinion.
Listen, don't say the pod's little, man. You guys are doing a great job, and
appreciate that.
Honored to have, come on. Every time you need me on, just let me know, and I'm here.
Absolutely, and we will get you on again, Lake, because this offseason has shown us anything. Don't expect anything to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. So I really appreciate you coming on, Lake.
All right, you guys take care. I appreciate it.
Take care, brother.
All right.
And Lake, again, with a fabulous insight into the Washington organization and what is happening now, kind of giving us a unique look into the org because, look, we're not the one asking the guys questions. And speaking of the press conferences, Ron Rivera spoke yesterday. Dwayne Haskins spoke today, and Ryan Kerrigan spoke today. So before we get into the overall Red football talk, let's hear some of these press conferences. Reed, you got those quotes chimed up for us?
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're going to lead off with Ron Rivera. I think that he had probably the most to say. Yep. Probably that's the one that everybody.
Especially about Guice.
Right, that everybody was looking forward to the most. And right off the bat, he addressed the Derrius Guice situation. And he came out and said, look, I met with the guys yesterday, and I told them that I made the decision that I thought was best for this organization. And if it ends up working out and it's what's best for the organization, great. And if it doesn't, that's on me, and I take responsibility for it. I personally
Absolutely
thought
love
that,
it.
that was huge. That
Perfect.
shows that his leadership and that,
Mhm.
look, this wasn't necessarily an easy decision because Derrius Guice is so talented, but it's a decision that had to be made.
Yeah.
And if the running back position struggles this year via injuries or they just don't perform, then it's on Ron Rivera, and he's willing to accept that.
What I felt, I love that quote from him, but the way that I interpreted it is this is his moment of saying, just in case this girl is completely making up all of these
Right.
accusations and something completely happens and Derrius Guice comes out with a lawsuit, he's saying, look, it's on me. I'm the one that pulled the trigger. I'm the one that made this happen. Don't go to anybody else. Don't come any players or any execs. I'm the one that made this move, and that's a sign of obvious leadership. And I'm glad that he did it because that was a question everyone was asking. What is this too soon on Derrius Guice because of the Cody Latimer thing? Why are they doing this? And that's where I felt like he was kind of giving his point to say, look, I made this decision. If it comes back the wrong way, I'll take the ownership for it. I love that aspect. What about you, Hall?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you can even look at the Reuben Foster thing where obviously it came out that after the whole process went through that his girlfriend had lied about a couple situations and blah, blah, blah. So he kind of got exonerated. And even Ron Rivera brought that up in his comments and said he's been doing all the right things since he's gotten there. And I don't know if that's a look to say that Derrius Guice hasn't been doing the right things or whatever, like a little kind of inside pot shot or whatever. But I don't think it was because, again, Ron's a straight shooter. Right. But I just think that, like you said, with the whole thing about Reuben Foster and how that came out later that it was a lie. Look, like you said, Ron's taking the responsibility, and there hasn't really been a responsible adult in the building for God knows how long.
Right.
But for someone to be like, look, don't point at this guy, don't point at that guy. This is my decision. I'm not going to put the blame on anyone else. Talk to me about it if it backfires, and I love that. So accountability, I love it.
Right. And to your guys' points, Rivera did say that Reuben Foster benefited from a change of scenery and Derrius Guice may benefit from one as well. Yeah. He did connect those dots. He also talked a lot about Reuben Foster. One of the things that I thought was a little bit interesting was he talked about Reuben's upside, and he made the injury recovery comparison to Cowboys linebacker Jalen Smith. If you remember Jalen Smith, his senior year at Notre Dame, final game of the season, their bowl game, blew out his ACL. It took him a year, but then once he came back, Jalen Smith has been lights out. He's been fantastic, and Reuben Foster is every bit as talented. So they're hoping, I think, that he can come out and have a similar impact as Jalen Smith.
Yeah, and this is Ron basically at me thinking that Ron says, Jalen Smith, the player comparison is really well there. That's what I think Ron is making, and he's absolutely right because look, the way that Cowboys defense is run is how the Washington football team is going to be running their defense this year with that 4-3, with the linebackers having to cover a lot of space. I mean, how many times last season did you see Jalen Smith in the quad section, 30 yards diagonal downfield, running cover 2 or cover 3? You saw it all season long. And look, Reuben Foster would fit into that outside linebacker position perfect. Absolutely perfect, in my opinion. You can't ask anyone better because, look, he's one of the best linebackers against the run. And, look, you can ask him to come up near the line of scrimmage or you can ask him to line up a couple yards off. He's able to cover sideline to sideline. I'm really excited to see how he looks on the field. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I think he's going to be 100% comfortable and, on the field as long as he gets back to, playing shape and playing form. But he's going to have, a lot of Alabama guys around him, people that have probably known him since he's been in.
That's the biggest indicator is that all of his boys are with him again.
Exactly. So Lake referenced it when he was back at Alabama under Nick Saban, had a lot of authority around him, a lot of structure. He had his boys around him. He was out there like a wrecking ball, which made him one of those top picks in the draft that year. Yeah. So I just think he's once he gets back to playing form, playing shape, he's going to be great. And also you got to think about Ron Rivera, ex-linebacker, played with the Chicago Bears defense, the '85 Bears. Right. Del Rio played linebacker throughout the league on the Cowboys, the Vikings. Been a D coordinator, been a great coach. Von Miller, Khalil Mack, those guys had great seasons under him. So you got to just think about and Thomas Davis with the addition of him. Thomas Davis is probably going to put him under his wing and be like, look, follow me. This is how you lead. This is the defense, blah, blah, blah. So I just think that, he can get out there and be just anything like Jalen Smith has become over his injury. It's going to be super, super bright light for that linebacking core. And he's going to make this defense, in my opinion, go from a top 10 to maybe a top 7 to top 5.
Right. Yeah. And sticking with the linebackers, I know Cole Holcomb was interviewed a few days before Ron Rivera, and he had said that they're asking the linebackers to learn every one of the linebacker positions. And this goes right into with what Ron Rivera said. Ron Rivera said that this might be a linebacker by committee because this is a very talented group. He brought up specific players. He said they're in the process of moving the linebackers around. He named Thomas Davis, Reuben Foster, and Kevin Pierre-Louis. They want to see how everyone meshes before locking players into certain spots. He also said there could be different starting linebackers depending on packages. I think that is fantastic when you consider the different sets of talent that they have in this locker room at linebacker. You know, you have the wily vet and Thomas Davis. You have the versatile, the speed, Cole Holcomb moves very well against a run. You have the hard-hitting Reuben Foster. You've got so many of these guys.
John Bostic, Sean Dion Hamilton.
Exactly. And so I think all these guys are going to get playing time, and they're all just kind of going to be moved around like chess pieces depending on matchups. And that's exactly what you want. That seems to be a theme with every position, by the way, is versatility. Yeah. So this is going to be the most versatile team we've had in a while.
Yeah, and like it's funny because these positions that you could call weakness, you know, the linebacker position, the tight end position, the running back position, look at those, and all you see is just a stack full of just potential and talent. You know, it's crazy because at all of these spots, there is a plethora of choices there. I mean, look at tight end. You got Logan Thomas, Hale Henches, Jeremy Sprinkle, Thad Moss, and Dick Rogers. Running backs, you got Adrian Peterson. You have Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson, G.D. McKissick, and Peyton Barber. And then linebackers, we just listed all of them as well. Do you have so many options for guys that could contribute and do well? And I just think that the way that they structured the depth chart is so well done and geared for Washington football, where you know something is going to go wrong down the season. So it's almost like you got those guys ready, and it just seems like this is the mold that they've gone at with these kind of weak position groups.
Yeah, I feel like the coaching staff, obviously Ron Rivera, by him getting fired midseason, he got a chance to, like Lake said, and everyone knows in his first press conference, he got a real chance to kind of look at the team and go in the ins and the outs of everything. And I guarantee one thing he thought about, and everyone knows, is injuries. This has been the most injured team in the league since, in my opinion, the past 2+ years, 2-3 years. So he's like thinking, I think the coaching staff and him was like, you know what? We're going to get stacked, and we're going to put a lot of talent, but a lot of depth as well. And we're going to, like you said, be versatile. We're going to get these guys to learn every position, because at any point in time, everyone knows this is a next man up league. And the Redskins have never had a next man up in a while at any position other than maybe like running back, because, you know, this has been a heavy run team for the past couple of years. But I just think that I think we need to get shirts that say versatile on it, because we've been bringing that up all like for the past like month or two. And look, Reed just said this is going to be the most versatile team, and probably not my lifetime, but a lot that I can think of.
It could be up there, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that I can think of. So I'm excited.
One of my buddy Bo, one of the Hall knows Bo, Reed knows Bo. Bo is one of the best football players that I've ever played with, talent-wise. The dude is just really, really good, and we used to.
I thought that was me, man.
You were too. But you know, Bo and I, we would always go back and forth and argue about football, especially about versatility. Because Bo always said, you know, I want a guy that's really good at one position and play him at that position. Where I was like, dude, I'm all about versatility, playing multiple spots. That's what Bill Belichick preaches. And so hearing this out of Ron Rivera, and like, we should make the versatile shirts, because I would gladly flaunt that around Bo, no problem.
Another quote Ron Rivera had that I just want to throw in there real quick that's funny before we go into our next presser is he was asked about Montez Sweat, and Ron Rivera couldn't help but break out into a smile, and he just said, it's pretty exciting. He's a tremendously gifted athlete. I think he's pumped to see Chase Young and Montez Sweat out there together. But then on Dwayne Haskins, he was asked about Dwayne Haskins, and he said that during one of his first conversations with Dwayne Haskins, he told him that being a leader is what you do both on and off the football field. And he said that Dwayne's really taken that advice to heart. And I think that, again, this is just another person that is acknowledging Dwayne Haskins' work off the field and what he's done to get prepared for the season. And I just think that people are discounting Dwayne a little bit. I think that people are around the league are going to be surprised by how well Dwayne does this year.
Yeah, and look, he's inching more and more towards what I want to know. What did he tell Dwayne early in the offseason? I want to know exactly what he asked Dwayne to do. And he's slowly opening up about it. And I'm glad to hear it. And one of the things that actually Julia elaborated on was, like in what Reed just said, being a leader on and off the field. Now, what does that entail? Did he break that down for Dwayne? I'd love to be able to hear that. But by all accounts, Dwayne has, we've said it time and time again, Dwayne has answered that bell, I feel like, and he has really put himself in a position to lead this team.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't really got much to add. Like we've been saying for the past couple of weeks how he's been putting that work in, and just not on the field but off the field, and just for the people to keep acknowledging, or for Ron Rivera to keep acknowledging, like he's a couple steps behind, he's this close behind, he's right where he needs to be, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said before, Ron's a straight shooter, so he's not just gonna put that out there for the media to just get the little quotes in and stuff like that. So I definitely believe that whatever Ron told him, he took it to heart. And I know we're going to get into Dwayne's presser in a little bit. You can kind of tell in his quotes that Dwayne approached this whole offseason just in a whole nother manner.
Yeah. Yeah, we're about to get into Dwayne Haskins right now. One of the things that Dwayne Haskins was asked was his goals for the 2020 season. And I love what Dwayne said. Haskins said that the offense needs someone to take ownership and lead. And he says, why can't it be me? Why can't I be that guy? He's said carrying himself as a starting quarterback comes down to his mentality, presence, confidence, and the handling your business on and off the field, which is exactly what Rivera said. And his expectations for 2020, he wants to be a great leader. He even mentioned being a captain if possible. He wants to make the best decisions possible on the field. He wants to be a leader in the locker room and be a bright spot in DC. Right now, this guy is saying all the right things, and we're going to see in the coming weeks, once they get those pads on, exactly how much he has progressed.
I guess Dwayne listens to the pod because he heard Julie on Thursday when we had her say that she wanted Dwayne to kind of be a captain this season.
Yep.
And step up into that leadership role. So I'm happy to hear Dwayne say that, because that is the one part off the field of Dwayne's game that he has to get better in, to be perfectly honest. And we saw him trying last season with the offensive line and the rest of the team. But, down the stretch, Adrian Peterson took control of that huddle. And that's something that has been talked about many times. And so that's where Dwayne has to progress next, is becoming that voice, becoming that voice of reason, if you will. And I think he's progressing in that fine.
It's funny that you brought up AP, because I was going to bring up AP, because I was actually just flipping through stuff on NFL Network the other day. And I believe it was NFL Network. He was talking to Nate Burleson, and they asked him about Dwayne Haskins. And AP specifically said, like, in the beginning of his first couple starts and when he was thrown in there, he was kind of in the huddle timid. I'm paraphrasing. But he was in the huddle kind of timid and not really, like, taking control. But those last, like, 3 to 4 games, AP said that he kind of took a step back, and it was kind of Dwayne was in there, like, commanding the huddle, getting the guys riled up and, like, kind of taking charge. So that kind of bleeds into this offseason where, again, he's like, I want to be a captain. And I'm going to paraphrase. If you go back to Ron Rivera's first introductory press conference, they asked him about what he saw in Dwayne and what he expected of him. And again, paraphrase, I think he said that the quarterback on my team, I want him to be the captain. I want him to be a leader. So again, that kind of fast forward, I'm guaranteed that's what Ron Rivera kind of mentioned to him. Like, you got to become a leader on and off the field. You got to kind of study. I know, like, everyone rags on Cam Newton, but Cam Newton, you can't deny he's a leader of men. So you just, like, kind of, like, watch what Cam Newton did and mirrored him. Don't mirror his dressing and stuff like that. But but now, yeah, I just think that like we said, Dwayne, we're gonna see these next I think the 18th is when they put the pads on. So next week and the next week and a half is when about to get real. So we're gonna see, and I think that a lot of people, a lot of doubters this year they're gonna be really surprised.
Yeah. And Hall, you talked about Cam Newton. Dwayne was asked a little bit about his meeting with Cam, and Dwayne said that was a great conversation that I'll probably hold for the rest of my life. So I think that he really took what Cam said to heart. But Dwayne was also asked about the new coaches and the new system. And Haskins says that he loves the attention to detail with his coaching staff as it relates to what they want him to do. He loves the opening communication and dialogue. In terms of difficulty, Haskins says that this offense is between what he ran in college and the West Coast offense that he ran last season. And he said, I think this offense really fits me, and I'm looking forward to mastering it. So I agree. I think that he has all the tools to succeed in this offense. He's always prided himself in reading coverages and diagnosing defenses, and he's got the arm. So I really think that he can be the guy in this offense and kind of exactly what they are looking for.
Yeah, and I kind of alluded to this in episodes before, but like the West Coast offense, what Scott Turner's going to be running with a lot of the pre-snap motions and everything, it's very similar to what Dwayne was running at Ohio State. They
Right.
really like to incorporate a lot of those generated plays that way. And so I know that Alex has had familiarity with this offense before, but so did Dwayne, kind of. And I think what
Right.
Dwayne is referring to by the West Coast offense, because I think we can all agree that Bill Callahan does not run a West Coast offense. That was with what was his name? Oh my goodness.
Jay Gruden.
No,
Jay ran a version of the
no
West
the
Coast.
offensive coordinator last season. Goodness, why can't I think
Kevin
of his,
O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell? Why can't I think of his name? But with Kevin O'Connell, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
When he really started sparking with Steven Sims and Kelvin Harmon, Terry McLaurin later on in the season, it was in that West Coast offense that they were running. And so I think you're going to see a lot of similar things and aspects with that. So a lot of credit to Dwayne for giving us another look inside.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that he likes the offense, and there's kind of like tailored to his type of style of play, and they're kind of tailoring it as far as the schemes and the plays, like to like his type of style of play, which is great because I think it was Pete Haley that actually brought up something about like him getting involved in the running game, which everyone thought that he was such a big guy and he couldn't really scramble, but you saw last year that he would be able to get out of the pocket, make some plays on the run. He threw across his body 50, 60 yards down the field to McLaurin right on the dime. So I expect him to be like a lot of not a lot of motion, but a lot of couple rollouts, out of play action because again, Scott Turner likes to run the ball. So it's a run heavy offense, but a lot of play action and stuff like that. But I just think that with the big arm that Dwayne has, I think they can take some shots down the field and it's going to be a good offense.
Yeah, and Pete Haley asking a terrible question. Yeah, we just had RG3, limp out of here, and Alex Smith leave, with a broken leg. So, yeah, let's run Dwayne more. Yeah, great question, Pete.
Right. And, when it comes to throwing the ball downfield, Hall, that's a perfect segue into this. He was asked about his confidence, how he was feeling this season. And one thing that people have always said is that the skill group is very weak, that the Redskins have bottom of the barrel when it comes to wide receiver. Obviously,
I don't believe it. You guys laughed at me. I said they're going to be a top 5 unit this season.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be that good. But
I know.
Dwayne Haskins said that having a lot of the same players back on that wide receiver, O-line, of course, Adrian Peterson has really helped his confidence, even though he's learning a new playbook. So just that familiarity with those guys, of course, he's known Terry for what seems like ever, but being back with Steven Sims and then having AP, that leader, and then, of course, having Kyle Allen back there who can kind of help him learn, I think that Dwayne Haskins' confidence right now has got to be sky high, and that's where you want your quarterback's confidence to be getting in a new system.
Yeah, and he has to be confident right now, seeing everything that's being built around him. The offense is not telling him, it's going through you. We're running this offense, and you are a contributing part to it, but it's not all on you. So Dwayne doesn't have to sit here and say, I'm making everything happen like he did last season. I mean, obviously the run game wasn't there for him. When that being said, so I can 100% agree why he'd feel confident, and he should, in this offense, because a good and confident Dwayne Haskins is only going to benefit this offense and this team this season. When they're humming well, this is going to be a hard team to beat, and I'm glad Dwayne is feeling more comfortable.
Yeah, he just has to have that kind of like a basketball, like a point guard mentality where I'm just back here distributing the ball to get into my playmakers, kind of like Cam Newton or Kyle Allen did last year with McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Samuels.
Got a John Stockton this jump.
Exactly. You got a Gary Payton the jump. But so just get out there, distribute it, and take the shots whenever you can. Like I know, like I'm glad Lake brought up the 6-3 with Alex Smith thing because again, everyone keeps thinking that I've seen all these national people. Oh, they're gonna have a top 5 pick. They're only gonna have 3 wins. They might have 1 win.
Ridiculous.
People forget that there was a run-heavy offense back then, and they were relying on the defense. And with a better defense, obviously on paper, in my opinion, and on and off the field because the coaching is better.
Yep.
Right. Presumably.
Yeah.
And the offense, I would say, is a step above just because the playmakers are there a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know the The line's a little bit more shaky, but
I would say
I
the
think
offensive
that
system is just a little bit less. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Right.
But I think that Alex Smith, everyone said that he was taking care of the ball, and that was a good thing for the offense. No, in this league, you got to score points. So I think that Dwayne Haskins having the huge arm is a benefit. So you can take more shots down the field. Obviously, you want to have Alex Smith like in your ear saying like, "Look, be careful, take the checkdowns when you can." But hey, this is a passing league. This is a put the points on the board league. So we got to get some downfield play, and I think that Scott Turner is going to bring that to this offense as he tailors it around Dwayne.
Yeah, and moving from the offensive side of the ball to the defense, one of the people that often gets forgotten is Ryan Kerrigan, of course, because you have all these big names that are a little bit younger, kind of the sexier players, especially Chase Young.
Dude, I was gonna make that joke when we had Julie on when she talked about the first time she saw Chase.
Yeah,
I wanted to make a joke about you, and I was gonna say that would be your same reaction.
Yeah, I would have had. Whoo, it would have been way worse than that, right, girls? Yeah. But one thing that I thought was interesting about Ryan Kerrigan was that Kerrigan says that he plans on being a playmaker for us in 2020. And well, when it comes to approaching Washington's sack record, he just straight up said, "I want it." He said, "I want it," and he's going to have opportunities in this defense. You know, you're going to think about all the guys that they're going to rotate in and out. I mean, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and then, of course, Ryan Kerrigan off the edges and then inside. They're going to be moving people all over the place. Ryan Kerrigan's going to have a legitimate chance to get it, especially if some of Chase Young produces like we think he will. Who are you going to double team? You know, people are going to end up leaving Ryan Kerrigan open. He's going to get some very easy sacks. I think that he has the perfect mentality right now. He's accepting his role, and he knows that he can contribute and just be a playmaker for this team this season.
Yeah, and look, I really do love Ryan Kerrigan and the work that he has put in, but I think he's spot
only
on.
a sack and a half away.
Yeah, I think he's spot on with what his role is going to be this season, barring any major injury, and that's on deep third down. You know, the one good thing that Ryan Kerrigan was good at was constricting the QB's run path. You know, he was very good at constricting the circle around the quarterback, so the quarterback couldn't run outside. A lot of times, you know, Ryan Kerrigan, instead of doing a pass rush move, he was more playing contain. And on deep third down, long third downs, that's really going to help going against guys like Carson Wentz that we've seen being able to break outside the pocket and extend the play on third down. That's where I see Ryan Kerrigan doing the most damage. And I really hope that we get this out of the way in the first game or so because, you know, I just don't want this to be a thing where Ryan Kerrigan is still a sack and a half away 6 games in and Washington Football Team Nation is like, when are we going to put Ryan in? We're not doing anything. You know what I mean? I want this to be done quick. I really hope it for him. And like I've said before, I think this defensive line group is going to be like a revolver. Just constantly shooting and exchanging a bullet out, putting a new one in, and constantly firing at all times. That's how I feel their rotation's going to be.
That's hilarious that you brought up 6 games. I was going to say that I think he gets it within the first 6 games. I think he'll get maybe 2, maybe 3 even sacks just because.
Great minds think alike, dude.
Exactly. Just because I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities, like you said, coming in on third down, pass rushing opportunities, coming in those second down kind of sub package units where he can, like, again, get after the passer, not be 20 yards downfield and covered for some stupid reason. But
dang statue out there.
Right. But no, like you said before, he's more of like a constrict the guy and like a more of a wear you out throughout the game, and then he'll get his sack at like towards the third or fourth quarter.
Worker.
But yeah, I think that within the first 6 games, he'll have 2 to 3 sacks. He'll get the sack record out the way, just because again, all the opportunities he'll have, the one-on-ones he'll have, with all the rest of the guys, like you said, in the revolver type of defensive line they have. I mean, look at the 49ers when they got to the Super Bowl last year based off their defensive line.
Yep.
Look at the Eagles with Nick Foles when they had Jernigan and all those guys just like rotate.
Brandon Graham. Yeah.
Brandon Graham, exactly. Fletcher Cox, exactly. So, I just think that the tip of the spear thing with Ioannidis is point on and no pun intended. But
I was going to say.
Yeah. But no, I think that this front 4, I call it a front 7 because I think it's going to be a 6-7 rotation.
Right.
Front 7 is going to cause havoc, and Kerrigan is the perfect guy to kind of teach the younger guys how to be a pro and grow the culture within the Ron Rivera era.
And you also know when Ryan Kerrigan gets on the field, he's going to take every single snap 150%.
Exactly.
You know, he's not going to go in and be lackluster. He wants that sack, and he wants to use his time because he doesn't have much left.
And he'll be refreshed because he's not going to be on there every single snap, rushing. He'll be fresh legs, 100% ready to go every single time he's in there.
Yep.
Right, and now being the seasoned veteran in the locker room, he was asked about that, and Kerrigan said that being a leader started to come more naturally to him. He's been around Chase Young a lot, who is a guy that wants to be great, Kerrigan said. Kerrigan wants to impart that information to him because the sky is the limit for that guy. So that's just good to know he's taken Chase Young under his wing. And not only that Chase Young came to him and wants to be great. Like, that just shows you how hard of a worker Chase Young is, how serious he takes this. He goes to Ryan Kerrigan, a guy who's had a lot of success in this league, and he wants to be with him. He wants him to kind of show him the way. And that's perfect. You know, like we talk about Chase Young all the time. All the natural ability in the world is there. And if he can learn some things from Ryan Kerrigan, this guy is literally the limit for him, like Ryan said.
Yeah, and based off the film that I've watched, you know, there are some plays where Chase Young does over pursue on pass rushes and stuff like that. So this is where he can go with Ryan Kerrigan because, you know, Ryan, he was never like a Von Miller or a Khalil Mack where he could bend the edge and just be a havoc around the edge.
He's also white.
Yeah, he's a worker. He's a worker bee. You know, he continues throughout the play.
AKA white.
Yeah. And when the play breaks down, that's when he gets a sack. And so if he can talk and kind of teach Chase Young on how to be the more of a contained rusher at times, when to be able to say, hey, this is when you play with your hair on fire, and this is when you play, contain, and when you can pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. I think that is an area that Chase Young can really learn from Ryan.
Yeah, not only that, but he can learn from him in the film room, off there, how to break down film, how to kind of get little nuances and in and outs of the pass rush, or when, like you said, when to use your hands, when to speed rush, when to
hopefully
power
not,
rush.
because Ryan only knows like one move.
Yeah, no. That's why I got Sam Mills there. But yeah, it just goes to show, like you said, the character of Chase Young, where he's just like, I want to just absorb everything that the future sack leader of the Redskins is going to have and all the knowledge that he has. And look, if everything goes right and Chase Young lives up to everything he says he is, he'll be here just as long as Kerrigan, if not longer. And maybe one day he'll be breaking Kerrigan's record. So what better person to learn from than the guy that's going to be at the top of the list?
Yeah, I completely agree. And we'll end these presser quotes with a pretty good one. Kerrigan was asked about the name change. He says sometimes he catches himself using Washington's old team name at times, but he doesn't mind the change. His exact quote was, "I'm cool with it. The new name's kind of cool. I got to be part of one tradition, and I get to be part of a new tradition moving forward." I think that is the perfect way to look at it, and I think he's right. It's time to start a new tradition. It's time to start some new things, and maybe, hopefully, we can start this new tradition of winning along with a new team name and kind of bury the old Redskins stigma.
Yeah, one of the quotes that I think Ryan said, I'm not sure if he said it already, was that he wanted to stay here and finish his career.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
In Washington. I thought that was the biggest quote from him by far, because, you know, I've said for years upon years, you know, that was what this team was missing, was the kind of camaraderie, the kind of pride in the city, in the team, and what you're representing, and the fact that Ryan wants to stay and finish his legacy, even though, you know, like it's been turmoil. It's gone terribly during his time here. Unlike D. Hall, who regrets not signing with the Patriots, you know, here's Ryan Kerrigan saying, I want to finish my career here. I think that says a lot about Ryan, and I can't thank him enough for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone knows that it was kind of one of the things talked about in the offseason is if we're going to keep him and is he going to be around. He should be one of those guys that goes and signs with a contender to get a shot at the Super Bowl because from all accounts, he's like one of those good guys on and off the field. And he's just one of those guys you root for that you're like, you know what? I would love to see him either play in a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
just
right.
He's that type of guy. So for him to stay here and be like, I want to stay here, he kind of has that Redskins for life kind of like stigma around him already where you can maybe see him come back in a coaching role, maybe a front office role, maybe even a broadcasting role on the field or something like that later on down the road.
A modeling role.
That too. Yeah.
He's a good looking dude.
He can be the first male cheerleader for the Redskins. You never know.
Hey, watch
Reed-
out, Chris Cooley might marry you.
Reed, Reed would buy that tape, I'll tell you.
Oh, I would.
He'd buy that calendar ASAP.
Real fast, can I just talk about the Reuben Foster news? How big it is if he's back? So, you got this stacked D line, right? That's just going to be amazing. They're going to be absorbing blockers, and then just think about if Reuben Foster regains his form, him and Landon Collins back there just just walloping Zeke, walloping Saquon Barkley, just hitting these guys, just laying people out across the middle, just firing in the hole. That's going to be terrifying. That's going to be intimidating, and I cannot wait if Reuben Foster is healthy.
It's funny because they even have the numbers on the side of their helmets, just like when they're at Bama. So it's literally just going to be like they're playing at Bama, just flying around, making plays, and those SEC crowds just yelling like, "Yeah!"
Yeah, I'm just really hoping that, somebody does take control of these positions. Because you have to imagine if they're comfortable with being at a certain spot with these guys, you have to imagine it makes everything easier on John Bostic and Sean Dion Hamilton and Cole Holcomb. That way they can fit them in the spots and be able to move throughout there. So, look, I'm really excited to hear about Reuben Foster because that was the one question we've been asking all offseason. Where is he going to fit? Where is he at? And we had Adam on many, many weeks ago, and he thought, man, it was a long shot for him to even play this season because he called being activated on the pup, but I don't think Adam expected him to be activated so quickly. But look, happy to hear that about Reuben because just another weapon being added to this already good defense.
So talented. He's just so incredibly talented.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap us up for tonight's show. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And I want to meet Chase Young in person so I can see this chiseled frame myself with his own 2 eyes.
All right, everybody. Remember, go like us and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, on Good Pods. You can find us on Instagram as well. You can find me on Twitter at The Burgundy Zone. You can find Hall at TBZ Money Mike 301. And then you can find Mike Reed at Old Dad.
And just Old Dad, or at Mike Reed 2156, Sean Taylor, LeVar Arrington's numbers. Remember those.
Just remember those. And
hey, how about that Soto bomb last night, though? Did you guys see that?
Yeah, dude, what? 463?
463 feet.
Off a left-handed pitcher too, on like a curve or something.
That boy, it was like a 71-mile-per-hour curveball. That boy has not missed a beat since he came back.
He has not, and we missed him a lot. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't miss out on Thursday. We have a huge guest coming on. It's up there. It's personally it's up there for us. I mean, for me.
This is for me. Yeah, we talk about this all the time.
Oh yeah,
this is people in the DC sports media.
The voice.
This is the voice.
The voice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't miss us on Thursday. Washington football. Whee!